everyone, and welcome back to a long overdue edition of Roll Q. Obviously a little bit of a different look with circumstances going on, but we've been requested quite a bit to have a second edition of the support Roll Q, and for good reason. We've got some big names that didn't get a chance to sit down at the round table with us the first time. Today we've got Aror, PBM, and Genetics. Fellas, first of all, thanks for taking time out of your day, and welcome into the show. If you haven't watched it before, it's a little bit of trolling, and Mike, I hope that you can loosen up a little bit and just kind of let loose here, because you're a little uptight most of the time, you know?
Yeah, agreed. I'll try to have some fun with it.
Okay, that'd be great. I want to kick it off because a lot of across a lot of different games that have roles, a lot like MOBAs or SMITE or class-based shooters, that kind of stuff, support is usually the role that people just get stuck with, that they queued DPS and didn't get a chance to play it. What made you guys want to be support players?
Who's going first here, fellas?
I'll go first.
Go for it.
So for me, I started playing SMITE back in 2012, and before SMITE, I played a lot of League of Legends, which was another MOBA, and I played jungle in that game. So when I came to SMITE, I started jungling. Even when the side jungle existed, when no one jungled, I remember I jungled as Vamana and Kali and Odin, and I took all the buffs, ran around, had a lot of fun with that. And then the first big change where they took away the side jungle for the Conquest map came out, where they added like the mid camps and you actually had a real jungler and stuff. And I remember one of the first teams I joined, we were scrimming and I was jungling, and every time I went to mid camps, their support was there, and my support was never there, and I would get so mad every single game. So then, when I had the choice to play support or jungle on the next team, I'm like, I'm playing support. I'm going to every single mid camp, and I'm gonna kill their jungler every single time. So
that mentality has served you well over the years. You haven't changed a bit, right?
But yeah, that's how I ended up playing support, and I like it. It's fun.
Do you remember who was on that team with you when you were playing jungle? Is it anyone? Is it anyone that's still playing or was big back then?
Chaos was on my team, I think. Back then for a little bit, and then I can't remember if Kabam was on my team when I was jungling at a point, or if I already switched to support. But Kabam might have been on one of those teams too when I was jungling.
One of the early squads.
Kiki and Harry Gian as well were on one of the teams that I was jungling on.
Star-studded, dude. That's a team that had potential for sure.
I remember playing against I think it was Exertus with like Andy and Heater and Dare to Care and that squad. That was pretty funny.
Dude, Heater was gas back in the day, man. He could play. I wonder what Heater's been up to, man. He should be hitting those ranked streets again, hopefully soon. Mike, what about you? What made you want to start being a support player?
For me, I kind of just played like when I played WoW or other games like that, I always ended up enjoying the tank roles a lot. I just thought it was fun to be like the first one in and to like just sort of play that role. So for me, when I came over to SMITE, when I was just watching streamers, it was a role that I thought looked like a lot of fun. I think like Jeff and ShadowQ were like the biggest streamers back then for support. And I just really enjoyed watching them and just, I guess just like learning how the role was. And I thought it looked pretty fun. So I sort of just enjoyed the gods in it and just kept going from there.
Genetics, how about for you? What made you want to be the punching bag of the team?
Yeah, I play with one of my friends called Max Cooper. Like his IG was Coopsy, and he was pretty good at the game. Like he was like floating around SML level when I was like started playing, and the only way I could catch up with him was just supporting him. I was pretty bad at the game otherwise. Yeah, I was just bad, so I just played support to help him out.
Hey, it's paid off for you in the long run, right? Going into that support role. Mike, you mentioned ShadowQ. I know that you and him had a lot of back and forth back in the day when you were first starting out. You mind giving a little bit of backstory to how you got started in support?
Yeah, so I literally would I played for maybe like 8 months or something before I ended up getting into the SPL, and this was around the time that I had finished high school. So I was coming out of high school and I was like just starting like my college education or whatever. So literally every morning before he had scrims and before I had class, I would snipe his queues, like snipe his stream, and just try to get in all of his ranked games and try to beat him. And I ended up like doing that for a little while. And I remember like you got a VOD review, right? Like if you're gonna queue rank, you gotta be reviewing those VODs. So I remember checking his VODs, and he was like talking about how he actually thought I was playing pretty well, and he recognized me from his chat. So I just started asking a lot of questions and just going back and forth with him. And he became a really good friend and somebody who definitely helped me just learn how to play support and how to play competitively. So it was definitely a huge start for me.
Yeah, it's Shadow Q, definitely one of the original OGs of the support role for sure. I wonder how he would do in today's current meta, which is where I want to go next, because this current meta last year was obviously super weird with these invades and everything like that. Now it's like the first 3 or 4 levels are super important in lane, and then some people are rotating and some people aren't. From a general perspective, what would you say is your job as a support in today's current meta? And Genetics, we can start with you.
Oh damn. I mean, it's different for each team, right? Like, I would say generally my role is you play the part of the map where you either need to defend or attack, right? So let's say you've got a Kama solo and he's kind of battering the enemy solo lane, and then you're going to play around blue buff and invades. So I think it changes depending on the game, you know, at least in competitive.
Sure.
I'd say that's pretty much it. You just play on the map where you've got the advantage or where you need to defend.
Roaming a lot, basically, and going where you need to go.
Basically roaming, deciding where to go.
Okay, Aror, how do you view it?
Since season 5, I feel like if you're a support player, you kind of just get carried now. From season 5 onward, that's what it's felt like, at least to me. But in all seriousness, it's like Genetics said, you're just supposed to be where you have an advantage, and you want to help your team push that advantage wherever you're strong. And then it's just about depending like on what comp you have, like you can do certain things, and it depends on what the enemy comp is as well. You can do certain things as well. But I really do feel like it's not as strong as it used to be.
Okay, we'll get back to that in a little bit. We can revisit that. Mike, what do you view the support's job is in season 7?
Kind of to facilitate your team, I think generally is like the box that a support player fits into. I think that you can play a lot of different styles, and I think you can be really impactful with all of them. So for me, it's just about, especially this year, like adjusting to my team and putting myself in a spot where I can kind of cover up a lot of areas. Like I can facilitate maybe like better early games or like different picks that they want to play. And that's normally how I try to approach things.
And that is something that we've seen in the past, but maybe it's a little bit more emphasized in today's game, I think, is exactly where you want to emphasize which lane, as Genetics was kind of alluding to. But looking back, I've got a feeling I know which direction Aurora is going to go. What are some of your favorite metas that you've played? Aurora, I'm guessing yours isn't season 6 or season 7, based on what you were saying. What are some of your fondest memories in metas that you love to play?
I remember I liked season 2 a lot. That meta was a lot of fun. I feel like nobody really knew what they were doing in season 2. I kind of felt like I was starting to understand like how strong the items were at the end, and nobody was picking up like the really strong items, even like at the highest level. And then same thing with season 3. Season 3 was a lot of fun. You didn't feel super weak, and you didn't feel like you get one shot. There's a lot like the difference now, like ever since the new Conquest map came out, season 5, there's like so much more damage in the game that you just die so fast. So there's not really any like long drawn out fights. It's usually more of like someone dies instantly now, and that just might come down to teams with better coordination. But I also do feel like there's more damage in the game as well. So those two things together make it a lot harder to do like plays where you can just sit in the enemy team for a long time. And I remember I had a lot of fun in any season that you could do that.
I was watching back our original support role queue in preparation for this, and I think I can't remember if it was Neil. I think it was Neil who said that he loved the eager season 3 meta that you guys kind of developed. That was one of the earliest iterations of just running it down. It felt like pretty early on. for that. I mean, because a lot of teams were kind of playing it pretty slow back then. It felt like, that was a pretty different look for you guys.
Yeah, no, that meta was fun. My favorite map, I think, now that I think about it, was a lot of people. This was unpopular opinion, but my favorite map to play on is when they took speed buff out of the game and they had blue buff and like back camps, and I think it was boars they used for like the camp that was closest to the lane. That was my favorite map to play on for sure, and I think that was at the beginning of season 3. And then a lot of people were complaining about it, and they brought speed buff back, and the map kind of changed again. But that map, I remember, I think that was right before like DreamHack, Sweden, and that map was a lot
that was
of
season
fun.
3.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that map. That was probably my favorite meta, just because you had a lot of options like around the jungle, and your jungler could do like a lot of things, I felt like then, and you weren't kind of locked into like one path, and there like nobody was like getting like super strong on the map, so it just felt good wherever you were going basically as a support player.
Was that the map that had the fire elementals? That was season 3, right? That had fire Ellies?
Yeah, I don't remember if they had the fire Ellies in. I know the fire Ellies like changed like 3 times, I think, that season 2. I don't know how
Right.
they worked.
They put
on that
the
map,
speed
so-
buff on fire Ellies, I think.
Oh
No,
yeah, it was like
that was at the beginning, and then everybody was like, no, and then they took it off.
Did they remove them?
yeah, they
and
removed
then-
the speed buff from it. It was
Oh.
just
I
golden
don't
XP after that.
I think there was fire Ellies there, but I think they were different. And then at the end of the year, they were different again. It was really weird. They switched
yeah,
like
it was like
3 times. Yeah,
the 2 medium ones, and then it was the 1 big one and the 2 small ones for a little bit. And there was like a strategy around just going to get the small fire Ellies early on and leaving the big one, and like all this crazy stuff. And solo lane really eventually snowballed out of control on that map
yeah.
towards the later end,
Yeah.
whenever fire Ellies were really
That's-
strong. But
That's
earlier
when
on, it was
solo
pretty
laners
open.
Were really strong too. Like they just had like crazy items. Like season 2, solo laners had like the craziest items, and they got nerfed a little bit, and then they still had crazy items. I feel like that's what happened to tanks. Like over the years, like for both roles, like their items were so strong early on, and they just kept getting nerfed and nerfed and nerfed every year, and then now we're here.
Yeah,
just
it was
get one
items and
shot.
kits for the. I mean, Xingchen and Bologna were both released season 2, and
Yeah.
both those gods were pretty good whenever they were released, if memory serves me properly. Mike, what were some of your favorite metas that you can remember playing in?
Honestly, looking back, it's kind of hard because I was just such a noob for so long. Like season 2, I remembered enjoying it, but kind of like Aror said, I don't think any of us really knew what was going on, or at least I definitely didn't. So I'd probably say season 4 I enjoyed a lot, and I actually liked last year a lot too, even though a lot of people hated it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I just thought there was like a lot of freedom of movement around the map, and you could do a lot of different things. And I also just think the role was like pretty impactful in general, so that definitely helped. But I'd say season 4 was probably my favorite, where I felt like a true support. I felt like you had the option to lane for most of the year, but you could also do like janky starts if you wanted to. You could play a lot of different gods, and I think like team fights and just how strong our relics were and stuff like that, it just felt like a really good and impactful role, and it felt like a more traditional sense of support. Whereas right now, I'd say you kind of either get ahead or you spend the entire game trying to avoid any CC because you die if you get hit by it.
Remind me again, Mike. How did your team do season 4? Where did you
Awesome.
finish that?
Really great.
That year?
Really great.
Just can't remember.
Yeah, that's obviously why I'm biased towards it, but yeah, come on.
Fair enough.
Why you got to
No,
do
hey.
that, man?
Aurora didn't say season 5, man. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
Aurora said
season
season
5
2.
Yeah, because we were getting one shot, man. We were
Season
getting one
5 was
shot.
the worst for supports, by the
Yeah,
way,
it
and
was
it's not even
horrible.
close. Like this year and last year, like last year was like a lot better for supports because you got to invade and like do like that's what people get for season 5. Season 5 was so bad, so supports were like, yeah, we're coming for you now in season 6. But
Yeah, it's
and
like
we
we're
weren't
not going to
even-
live anyways, so we may as well
season
run it
5
down
was
at your
by
speed, right?
far the worst though, because like mid camps and back camps give so much XP. The jungler is level 20 and the mid laner is level 20. You're level 10, and they have like Heartseeker Crusher that one shot you, and mid laners have like crazy items that one shot you, and you're just walking around saying, "Please don't one shot me, please."
Dude, we weren't even OP in season 4. We weren't OP at all, and solo laners were getting so fed because of stupid fire elementals. They nerfed every single tank item, man, and we just get one shot.
Excellent.
God.
Yes. Tank items don't deserve to exist and be good at the same time. Genetics, what was your favorite meta that you can remember playing in?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't played like competitively as long as these guys. Like, I only started playing properly like towards the start of season 5, so I've only been involved in like 2.5, I guess, years. But I would say it's meta. I don't know. I kind of like this year quite a lot. I know we're quite squishy, but I think it keeps a good balance to the game, and I like the option of like you can stay in 2 in duo lane and kind of like try and half freeze and half fight, or you can go rotate across the map. I think it's like just there's a lot more team play, which I like more than just my role being impactful. It's kind of weird, but I don't really like last year, so yeah, just this year's the best so far for me.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like you have way more options. That makes some sense to me. Genetics, out of curiosity, when did you start? I know you just said you didn't start playing in earnest until the beginning of season 5 and looking to play competitively then, but when did you start just playing Smite in general?
Yeah, I started actually towards the start of 2013, and then my computer broke like maybe 3 months in, and I didn't play season 0, 1, or 2, and then I played maybe like 100 hours season 3. And then I got on my first team in season 4. So like around season 4 was when I started playing properly.
Gotcha. Okay, interesting. Always fun to hear about exactly when people started playing. So guys, if you feel like you're not, you're too squishy these days, you don't get enough time laning, whatever you think you would want to change about supports, what would you change if you had control of the knobs for one day? How would you make your role more fun for you? Mike, you can lead us off.
Honestly, all jokes aside, I actually do really enjoy my role right now. I think something that's a little frustrating is just I think duo lane is good right now, but I also think that there's some not fun factors about it, specifically like the jungle shrine and hog changes I think are good to counteract the duo meta or the invade meta, but I think it impacts duo in a potentially negative way because I think like season 5 we had a bunch of stuff where like solo laners were starting in our lane and then they would TP away, and I just wish there was a way where you could have a true duo lane and it didn't feel like other teams had the option to kind of like 3-man start on you or to do these weird starts or whatever. Like right now it feels like they've taken away the option to make the game unfun for the jungler, but they have kept that in for the duo lane. So I guess it's kind of just like this weird thing of constricting the map all to that lane in terms of like creative starts you can do. And I think sometimes that can be fun, but sometimes it can also be really frustrating, as you saw in season 5, in my opinion. So I guess that'd be one thing that I would try to change, is just like the overall laning phase and how early other roles can make an impact on what they're trying to make a true duo lane. I think I would like to see that get changed a little bit.
So how would you do that? By the way, Mackenzie says hi, everybody. She heard the supports were talking, and she's a support at heart. So she joined in.
I started like randomly smiling because I saw her like jump up on your bed behind you when Genetics was answering. I loved it.
She's Roman. So you just want it harder to gank duo early on? Is that like making the map bigger? Slowing down the rate at which you get XP early on, so that it's harder for them to actually have more buttons than you coming over? Like, is that what you're talking about?
I think it's just how quickly the jungle and mid laner have the freedom to rotate. Like, I think if a solo laner wants to invest TP to do something else in the map, I think that's fine. Like, there's a clear punish for that. But I think the jungle and mid being able to clear literally the entire map in like a minute and a half and be level 3 when everyone else is level 2, and then they have the option to come do whatever else they want in your lane is so frustrating. Like, it's such a power imbalance, and it's like the reason that led to, you know, people like Aurora and myself last year just saying, screw it, we're running at your speed, because if we don't, we're just sitting ducks in duo. And now that they've removed that option, like, we're just back to where we were in season 5. And I think there were a lot of flaws to that duo lane meta. And
Sure.
right now, I think it's fine and it's pretty fun, but I just think, you know, as time progresses, if we were locked in this, I think it only serves to get worse, in my opinion.
Sure. Makes sense. Aurora, it seemed like you disagreed pretty heavily with everything Mike was saying there.
No, I was agreeing.
No, I know. I was trolling. You were,
Okay.
you were clearly, you were
But
vibing with it. Yeah.
Going back to what Genetics and Mike said, like, for me this season, I really enjoy it. I like a lot of the options that you have. There's a lot of different things you can do, I feel like, in terms of like team play. But in terms of like starts, you can't really be that creative, like Mike was saying. And I feel like the thing that I hate the most about duo lane is that your lane doesn't matter at all right now. The lane that matters is the mid lane. Like, if your mid lane controls duo lane basically, just because they can clear everything so fast. So if one of them come over to your lane and gank you early on, you're gonna just lose your lane because of that. So
Right.
mid or jungle, so you don't really have any control over that at all. It's just other roles controlling your lane basically, and it makes it not fun. So that's
Yeah,
like.
Go ahead.
Okay, no, you can go.
Yeah, I don't know. I've talked a lot. You know, we've done a lot of these role queues, and I just love talking about like game philosophy and that kind of stuff for Smite. And I just don't know. Look, if we were to just remove the how good wave clear is, let's say we just made minions 4 times tankier in the early game, wouldn't that kind of, and again, this isn't
probably.
It would just make the better clear characters, you know, Izanami, Poseidon, Anubis, like these gods that over clear waves early on. Like, do you think that would just make those gods the only ones that are viable and make low clear characters just impossible to play at competitive level? Or do you think there's a way that you could make low clear characters work, even if minions were 4 or 5 times tankier?
To be honest, I don't know. I think the higher clearing characters would be really good, but I wouldn't know until I played on it. But yeah, I don't know if that would fix the issue. It's just the fact that like a jungler can like wipe his jungle out almost instantly. Maybe you make the jungle camps like tankier or something and make Assassin's Blessing like a little bit better. So like mid laners can't clear the jungle camps as fast as the jungler can as well, maybe. Like maybe buff Assassin's Blessing and then make the camps stronger. But I don't know, like who knows like if that'll even be good or not, because you have to test it and see how,
yeah, it's all
how
just
it is. But
theorizing.
I it's really hard to say. Like I'd have to think about it like a lot more. But that's like the biggest issue right now for me, is that like the jungler and mid just have such a high influence on your lane, and you can't really influence another lane like Mike was saying, like you could last year now, in the early game at least.
Yeah,
but yeah,
no, I think that makes a ton of sense.
Other than that, like I do really like this year and this season. It's a lot of fun to play. I think there's a lot of options you have, and I like it better than season 5. That's for sure.
Hey, moving in the right direction. You know, that's what matters. Genetics, how about for you? What if you could make one buff or one change to either, you know, an item or a guardian in particular that you think deserves some more play, or something that would help the role in general? What would you do?
Yeah, I kind of agree with what the other two were saying. I think the way to do it, in my opinion, is to make, you know, every minute of the game, the buffs get tankier. I think it should scale every 30 seconds. So if junglers try and do some weird start and the camps should get instantly tankier. Because I think it's ridiculous that it takes 2 people in duo lane the same amount of time to do the small harpy in duo as the jungler can do speed, backs, and blue. I don't know. So it's just ridiculously tanky for no reason, and it's worth half the value. And I'm splitting with another person, so it's like a quarter of the value for twice the amount of time. It doesn't make sense why they're so tanky to me.
Well, they're alphas, you know. It's the alpha harpy. Like, it's not a beta harpy, Genetics, you know.
I mean, make them that way because they're too tanky. Can't do them.
I mean, all I'm saying is, if they're the alpha, we know that, you know, the equation needs a beta, and it's the duo lane members. It turns out, most of the time, at the very least, at least until later on. Guys, if there are any, I think that support in general is one of those roles that doesn't get enough credit all the time. There's a lot of things that go unseen for supports. Neil pointed one out on the last episode of Roll Q that I've tried to look out for a lot when I'm casting is big horrific emblems usually win fights. If you can get an upgraded emblem on 3-4 people in a team fight, it can win you the game, and those are really hard to spot for the casual viewer. What are some of the really underappreciated things that you think supports do that the general viewing audience or lower elo players might not think about or notice whenever they're playing their own game? Genetics, you can kick us off.
I would say, I think giving up farm, like, it's kind of easy to do, but at the same time, if you do it too much, like knowing your limits of how much you can give up and knowing the benefit for your team and then the negative for you, I think that's a really good thing that people do. I think, like, so some sports, like I think PBM and RAF are really good at doing it, especially if they ever get a lead. Sometimes they'll kind of just stop farming and they'll impact the map in different ways than farming, and they generate more value for their team by being like a rotator than actually farming themselves. I think that's like something that's really unique to comp play compared to like ranked and stuff. But I don't think people really know why they do it.
Properly allocating that farm, it's a tough balance for sure. Yeah, I think that's a good one. Mike, anything come to mind for you?
Kind of piggyback off what Sam said, I would say if you play with a really good support, I feel like the way they facilitate the rest of the roles to farm is really impactful. So an example I'll give is that just like the way you manage waves, or like if your laner has to back, like holding that wave for them, and like you'll see people like run around in circles to try to hold it towards their tower line so they get the whole wave, or like just small stuff. Like I'd say a new thing this year is like if I'm coming out of base and my jungler is about to go do his speed, I'll like go hit the shrine and like put it off for them, and then I'll go back to mid lane just like in between when they're backing, just so that they don't have to waste 3 seconds doing it. And it's like a small thing, but over the course of the game it can buy a lot of time. So I think there's a bunch of stuff like that I think is really useful. Also, just like ward control for supports is really big. Like junglers often get a lot of credit for the ganks that they get, but if you look back at a lot of SPL games, you'll see like support setting up like sentries so that their jungler can path there freely, or you'll see them like kind of put themselves in the middle of a counter rotation so the other team can't get to their jungler and they're uninterrupted. I think small plays like that are really hard to spot but make a huge difference, and especially at the top level you'll see a lot of the better supports make plays like that all the time.
And if you're already there to help with jungle shrine,
I'll
be getting that
speed XP. Yeah,
you gotta be getting that speed XP every time. Aurora, how about for you?
Yeah, I just think the things that are like a lot of what Mike was saying, just small things like holding the wave and hitting the jungle shrine, so your jungler doesn't have to do it, and then just noticing where you have an advantage and how you can set them up for success, basically, with either warding or just setting up like a zone or something like that. There's like a lot of things like that that don't get looked at that much, but it's just small things. I think supports get a pretty fair share of like spotlight nowadays. I feel like it's not that bad at all. I feel like they get a lot of justice, especially last year. Everybody was always hyping up all the supports, I feel like, with all the invading and stuff, and I feel like this year it's been good too, so I don't think there's any problem right now.
Listen, man, it's a lot easier to notice the multi-man herc pushes and that kind of stuff in comparison to the clutch Sylvanas heal or something like that we might have seen in the past. What are some of your guys' biggest pet peeves when it comes to playing ranked or in playing with people who don't understand how to play around a support that's going to be making their life a whole lot easier? One that always frustrates me whenever I play support is my carries running away from my shell or my sprint or something like that could save them. That drives me absolutely nuts. How about for you guys? Anything immediately come to mind that tilts you instantly when you're playing ranked?
Yeah, for me, I hate when I'm playing ranked and the person that I'm laning with doesn't hit the wave and they try to hit the other people in the lane. That's the worst thing in the world. I'm like, just hit the wave and we'll kill them. You don't have to hit them. They'll die to the minions if you hit the wave. That's all you got to do. Like, people,
but I got to get my
player
damage.
Understand that? Like, it's crazy. Like, if you're a hunter player listening to this and you play ranked, you always hit the wave every single time, unless the person is literally trying to die to you in lane. If there's a wave there, hit it, not the enemies.
Enemies are only there for when the minions are dead. Minions take
Yeah.
priority. Mike, you seem to agree with that?
Dude, when ranked ADCs do not just left click the minions, I get so tilted. Like, and another thing that really annoys me is I just want people to follow me around. Like, a lot of most like high level ranked games, this doesn't happen, but sometimes when people play scared and I'm like an aggressive rank support and I can almost solo people, like if they just follow me around the map, I'll literally just spoon feed them kills. Like, they'll just get so fed. And the crazy thing is they'll get all the credit. They'll think like, wow, I'm popping off. Like, you just follow me. Like, just press W behind me and we win. And it tilts me for sure.
Do you guys like, you hit a big Athena taunt or something like that, and then your Raw like snipes them and kills them, and then they're like, yes, dude, another snipe that I hit. I'm so nuts. Like, does that ever get under your skin a little bit? Like, yeah, I just Horus comboed that guy for you. You had to do nothing except put it on top of me.
I actually like when they like, yeah, I did that. I'm like, yeah, you did. I like it. I'm like, yeah, kill them. We're winning. I like winning. Let's keep doing that.
Doesn't matter who's getting the credit then. Genetics, how about for you? What are some of your biggest ranked pet peeves?
There's two things. The first one is Horus. The ult is impossible to use in ranked compared to competitive. In every way, the ult is trash in ranked because nobody has any. Nobody is as smart as they are in comp, so it just isn't good. So the character's kind of bad in my opinion. That's the first thing. And the second thing is mana pots. The amount of times I've screamed down my mic in frustration at my ADCs buying mana pots over multi-pots and then dying in lane because of it when they've got a full mana bar but no health bar. It happens so much. I don't know. That one thing just tilts me more than anything.
I feel you on that, dude. Why does Hunter's Blessing have more MP5 than Mage's Blessing, dude? They have no reason to ever get mana pots. They've got infinite mana from Hunter's Blessing alone.
There's no reason.
I'm telling you, man. Just complete noobs. Here's something that I think I get a lot of questions whenever I'm streaming or something like that. As supports, in competitive, you're getting Hog almost all the time, but you're not always using it on purple. Sometimes you save it for Alpha Harpy or for the second rotation of purple. What leads you to, number one, know that you need to get Hog or if you can skip it? And number two, if we're using it on first purple or second purple or Alpha Harpy, like what goes into that decision-making process for you guys?
Go ahead.
No. You go.
No, guys, come on.
Dude,
Mackenzie, does she want to turn?
This delay is going to kick our butt. Yeah, I think for me at least, it's just kind of like the security of knowing that you can get your, like, if they can test a buff, obviously you would just rather have it than not. And sometimes you can't tell if they like do have a different start or if they will contest it or whatever the case may be. So it's kind of just like a security blanket. And now that you can't stack like health chalice and health pots, in my opinion, at least, like having extra multi-pots is nice, but like 2 multi-pots normally won't dictate a lane completely. And even if you did think it would make a big difference, like just the clear speed on a purple to get to the lane quicker can dictate pressure more than, those extra multi-pots would, right? Like if you buy a Hog and they buy multi-pots and you hog the buff and you get to lane like 2 seconds quicker because of it, you're going to have lane pressure anyways. Like it won't really matter. So it just depends how you want to use it. Generally, I just think the risk reward is just favoring like just kind of buying it and just using it however way you want currently. So, and also like there's a lot of games I have it in the SPL even, and I don't even find a good use for it, and I literally have it for like 7 minutes and I just sell it, and like you only lose 33 or 34 gold or whatever. It's really not that big of a deal. So I think it's just better to have it than not.
But you can sell it.
Insurance policy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my! The amount of times I've used it because I thought I've missed it. I thought you couldn't sell
Come
it.
on,
You
bro.
can sell it. It's 66
Yeah, I'm pretty
gold.
sure I've done that SPL game.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I just popped it randomly out of anger.
Listen,
That buys you
man,
a word, man.
support's everywhere, learning something, even here on the show. That's what this show's all about. So Genetics is just using it no matter what because he can't sell it in the store. Aror, are you buying it just about every game, or are you having some games where you don't think you need it?
Yeah, I like what Mike said is the risk versus reward is usually better to just buy it, but you could still not buy it if you really don't want to. It just depends on like how you want to play your lane and what you want to do with it. And if you get it, how you're gonna use it, and usually just using it for clear speed is just the best. But you could, if you're like playing like a losing lane maybe, and you know that they're just gonna outpush you no matter what, maybe saving it for the next purple could be good too. Or if you're playing a losing lane and you know that you're just gonna get outpushed as well, maybe you just don't get it at all and you just have more sustain. So it just depends like on what you want to do and how you want to play with it.
How many times? What's the conversation like whenever you try and hog secure the purple and you lagged or something? Your eye got itchy and you just happened to miss secure with that hog. Is that an insta tilter for you and your team, or I mean, I'm assuming this only happens when something goes wrong that's out of your control, guys. Obviously, you wouldn't miss a hog secure on purple normally.
It's just whatever usually for our team. Or Cyclone's like, whatever. But ever since the change where they added the 20 damage, I feel like it's really hard to miss the secure on it now. I feel like before, like 150 was kind of low, but the buff on it was really, really nice they added. So it's pretty hard to miss now, I feel like. At least at level 1. Higher levels, it's if you try to do like when they're like level 3 or 4 and they have some ranks in their abilities, you can miss it pretty easily. But like
Yeah.
at least at level 1, it's really easy to secure now with the change, the extra damage added onto it.
We just saw one Raffer steal one last
I don't
week.
even know how that happened. That was
in
yesterday,
SPL.
wasn't it? Or 2 days
Yeah,
ago
I
or
think.
something.
I don't know. I think he chain stunned with Yamoja and like stunned. I forget exactly who they were playing against, but I think he chain stunned them.
He missed his first Umoja one completely, besides like the third bubble bounce, and then he stunned them, and then he just got it somehow, and I was like, okay, he got it. I was so confused that he got that. I was like, what? So Neil must have just hogged it super early, and that's how he had got it. He didn't use it at all, but I think he used it.
He used it.
I have to watch it
Yeah,
back.
he used it. He must have used it too early.
He had to use it super early, I feel like. Because that was so weird that Raffer actually got that. I was like super surprised when I saw that.
That screwed their whole lane too, that game, because it really put them behind. Guys, who are some of the players that you think support already maybe at a lower level, and in SPL level gets a good amount of credit these days, but in ranked feel like it's a pretty thankless job most of the time? Are there any supports that you watch at the minor league level or even at the SPL level or in ranked that you don't think get enough credit for being pretty good players? Anyone come to mind right away?
Man, Jake's in the SPL now. I can't shout him out.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the two like old answers would have been Jake and Genetics, but they're both in the SPL now. I'm not sure.
I have one.
Yeah.
It's Quig if he's trying and not trolling.
Boy, is that a coin flip.
Yeah. But Quig's good. Like if Quig actually tries, I think he could actually be really good. But I feel like he sometimes intentionally trolls a little too hard. But if he's not doing that, he can be pretty good. And I think he can play a lot of the different styles. And I think he has a good like mind for the game as well. But yeah, that's the only one I could really think of. Sorry, Mike, for cutting you off.
No, you're good. I haven't seen a lot of the like Challenger or STC games. I forget what the league is called. I'm just an idiot. But I haven't seen a ton of their games. I think Gino is generally like a pretty good player. I don't know how he's been doing, but like in ranked and everything, I think Gino's always been like a good player for the past like 3 or 4 years. I think like Gamma has been like doing pretty well with his team. I don't know how he's been playing, but I think in ranked he has like good moments for sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, I just haven't really gotten to see a lot of them. I'd say like kind of the new guard or whatever has started to like shift in with Genetics and Jake coming into the SPL. So I don't really have anything as of right now, but I'm sure in the like coming months there'll be some people who impress everybody.
Sure. Genetics, how about for you? I'm sure there are some EU guys. You can give us a little bit of EU representation here.
I actually can't. I mean, there is. I mean,
they're all trash. Okay, fair enough.
There's some good players. Don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, in SEC, you've got like Hayes something for the team that I was on, and he's done a cracking job for how little he's played the game at a top level. I mean, Days has been in the game. He's been involved in the game for a while. Trix is there. There's a lot of experienced players. Like even Callis is in the league as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no one really that's untested. I think in EU anyway. In the SCC that that has to prove themselves by any means.
Yeah, it's a good point. A lot of former SPL players there.
Mm.
Speaking of Jake, by the way, I gotta ask. Did you guys think you all think that he was gonna be this good right away? I think that the prevailing theory was that mechanically he's always been really good, but no one was really sure if his play style would transition. But it seems like you guys were all pretty high on him right away.
Yeah, I thought Jake
Listen,
was
man.
really good.
Dude, I was on the record instantly. I know
You were.
Snoopy was there with me as well. Like Jake, he gets it, man. Like anyone who played duo lane in ranked, like actual like pro level like ADC and support players, if you 2v2'd against him in ranked, like you knew he had his moments where he's not bad. Like yeah, sometimes he runs it down and goes 0-20 and he's on so a little unlucky, but like he's just a good player, man. He just gets it. He knows how to be aggressive. He knows how to like play for his team and just kind of set things up. He's just a good player.
Yeah, Jake's like one of my favorite support players that's come into the league. Like, because I've been around since the beginning, basically. So I've seen a lot of supports come in and out of Smite, and I've played against all of them in ranked at some point or in scrims. But Jake is like, he just has his own way he plays, and I really like that about him because he commits on it. Like I feel like he hasn't committed all the way to his own style, but that might be a good thing. But he has his style and he just does it, and that's what makes him good, I feel like, because some people are just afraid to commit to a style like that. Like he doesn't even care. He's just like, whatever, I'm doing it. And like some games he'll go 0-20, and then some games he'll go 20-0, and that's just how it goes if you're playing the way he plays. But that's just him getting better and better. Like the games that he dies a lot, like people might think he's trolling, and maybe he is a little bit, but who knows. He's just learning from those games, and he's getting better every single time he has a game like that, and he learns what he can't and what he can and can't do. And I think the way he plays is just really good, and it's been really enjoyable watching someone like that come in the league and have success.
He's definitely been fun to watch, man. I mean, Genetics, I don't know how familiar you are with or were before the SPL with Jake and his antics, but he was a highly anticipated debut here in the SPL, but he's done really well for himself so far.
Yeah, he's trolled me in rank quite a lot when I've played with him, but I completely agree with the rule. You would rather be overly aggressive. You would rather be an overly aggressive style and reel it back in as you learn your limits than try and become more aggressive as time goes on. I think that's like a really big advantage for him, especially. And like he does stuff that I don't think a lot of people would do, and I don't think's good. Like he'll randomly horror assault, right? Which I would never do, but it works out, and it's a good thing. Like it's his style, right? Like it shouldn't work, but the fact that he does it means it works, which I think's just so good for him and his team.
Hey, you never know what to expect when Jake's on the map, man, and that's certainly an advantage for the Renegades. One of my favorite parts about doing these role queues is having you guys describe each other's play style. I think we might get a lot of the same because a lot of you guys have very similar play styles, but that's part of the fun. Mike, we'll start with you, and let's talk about the newest member to the team here, Sam. What do you see from Genetics when you watch him play? How do you think that his game is unique to him?
So my first impression of Genetics was there was a start in season 5 where you would like Terra, or in season 4 you would like Terra wall the waves or whatever with your 2. And in season 5, Emilzy in the SPL did a start where he started his 3 on Terra and he walled the wave like at Phoenix. And I remember asking him about it and where he got it, and he said there's like this EU ranked player named Genetics who like came up with it and told him about it. I was like, I have no idea who that is. I've never heard of him. And Emilzy was like, yeah, he's actually like a pretty good player. Like he, plays like at the amateur level or whatever. And then I remember watching some of his games and thinking like, he was just a smart player. It seemed like he knew how to like play competitively and that he was just kind of like figuring things out. And then I think you guys had the, what was it called? It was like before season 5 Worlds. What was the name of that? It's not regionals anymore, but like,
yeah, the pre-Worlds qualifiers,
yeah, whatever. Yeah, placements, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, like his team, he played really well on that team and they had a good run and a little bit unfortunate ending to it. But yeah, he just like kind of seemed like a good player and like a good up and coming support. And I'd say now he's kind of like I'd say you pretty much have your own like play style and your own things that make you unique. Like just similar to Jake, I'd say you have characters that you liked playing on your old teams that you've brought over to eUnited and like have made really impactful. I think obviously like you had a couple really good Horus games and stuff like that. So I think Gen is just an intelligent player. It seems like he knows how to play the map with his team, and I think that comes from playing at a high level in the amateur scene for the last couple of years. So I'd say that's like the biggest differentiator from him compared to like other supports. Like Jake, for example, is kind of just like raw like talent, I guess. And I'd say like Sam has that, but also I feel like you've been a part of like leadership on your team. So yeah, that's kind of how I would evaluate his play style.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Aurora, what do you see from Sam?
Yeah, from what I've seen, like just over his social media and just what I've heard from other people that are in SPL and that have talked and played with him, he just seems like he's a really dedicated person to Smite. Like he puts a lot of time into trying to improve, like outside of the game, like looking at certain things and how he can improve. Like he's probably the best Horus alter there is in the league, and that's something he brings. Like that's completely different than like any other support. And then he's just a really intelligent player. He likes to look at things, and he basically looks at it in his own way, and he has his own opinion on certain things. And I like that a lot. Like some things he'll say, like I'll disagree with, but I respect it because he looks at it that way, and he thinks it's good, and he can make it work that way. And I think if every support player thought the same way, it would be really bad. And I really like when new players come in and they don't try to think like you. They have their own way that they think and they make it work. And like Jake and Genetics both do that, and I think they both do it very well. So, and Genetics and like if you like Genetics is completely different than Jake. I feel like they're both really good at the game. Jake just likes to go in and he just doesn't care. Genetics is like super calculated in what he does, and he really puts a lot of thought in how he's going to play the map with his team and what characters he can use to influence that as well. But yeah, it's been
Sam,
really cool watching both of them.
Yeah, Sam, I think that everything that they were saying were basically my thoughts as well. But how different is the SPL to that SML level where you competed for a very long time, and maybe how you expected it to be compared to how it is? Is it what you thought it would be?
First of all, thank you for the kind words. That was very nice. It's kind of weird. Belt Slap were a really good team, and they kind of slapped us around the entire year. So it's actually a step down from Belt Slap, surprisingly, for the most part. Trix and Johnny are just the best players in the world. There's nothing you can do about it. I thought, I mean, this year my team didn't do as well as we'd hoped. I think there was a few attitude issues, so it's kind of hard judging it from this year. But I've certainly felt like from last year when I went to placements, I didn't think there was that big of a gap. I think that the meta being different is probably, and how the maps played is probably the biggest difference. I think like my god pool has, I mean, some of the gods have worked, but not all of them, and I think some stuff that works in EU doesn't work in NA for sure.
Yeah, a little bit more smorky over here from time to time, you could say. I think it's pretty fair. All right, Genetics, let's talk about Mike. Obviously, super serious all the time, just can't crack a smile ever. We're really annoyed about it all the time. We talk about all the time how we wish we could interview him more, but God, he's just so boring constantly. But if you could stick a little bit more towards his actual gameplay for your breakdown, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't got as much experience with Mike, but I can tell from the way he plays, and it's on the verge of annoying, right? I think Mike really understands the value of how annoying a support and how good it is to waste the enemy's time is. And like he mentioned the jungle shrine earlier, right, where he said, I can save my team 3 seconds. And it's little things like that he'll do that you don't realize until you watch him over and over again, that he'll do those little things. And I think he's extremely selfless at engaging as well. And that's one thing that I look at and I try to improve on, is he will engage. And even if he wastes, let's say he wastes 2 ults on him, if he understands the value of those 2 ults in a team fight, if he knows his team will win the game from it, it doesn't matter, And I think that kind of attitude as support is extremely important. I think that's one thing that North Americans do. Like the smoke, it's not even disrespectful. It's just they actually understand how valuable they are in a team, and they put their lives on the line for it.
Willing to get in there at all times. I think that's a pretty fair assessment. Aurora, you've played against Mike for a while now. What's it like playing against him? What do you see in him?
Mike's cool to watch. Like over the years, like I've seen him come in from the start, and I feel like out of all the players, and it's obviously because we've been around for so long. He's evolved so much. Like the way he started playing when he came to the league, he's like changed it, and he's taken things from every season and he's put it into his game. And I feel like every season he's gotten better because of it. And some people like fall out, but he's been able to stay in the league and stay like as one of the top players like from season 3 onwards. And I feel like the things that he's picked up from all the seasons really shows like how strong of a player he is. Like originally he was more of like a Geb Athena player, but now he
Yeah.
can play like all the aggressive gods. He could still go back to playing like the Gebs, Athenas, things like that. He could basically do anything. He's like, I got a hat, I'm gonna pull this out. But yeah, I think Mike can play a lot of different ways, and he could be like really successful at all of them, and he has really high impact in the games that he's in. And I like the way he thinks about like lane matchups as well. Like when it does go back to duo, I feel like he's probably the best support player I've laned against in a 2v2 lane in terms of how he's going to play the lane. I feel like he has the highest understanding of the lane, and I think he looks at it differently than me in some areas as well, which is cool. And the way he looks at that, I can kind of take from and learn as well. But I think he's just a player that can play a lot of different styles, and he's really good at adapting to whatever the meta brings. And he's just a high impact player for whatever team he's been on.
Yeah, Mike, I think that's a pretty fair assessment that your play style has changed, maybe not drastically year to year, but certainly from the very beginning to now. Do you agree with
Dude.
that? Do you think that you have made market improvements every year?
Yeah, when Aror said I used to be a Geb Athena player, I almost threw up in my mouth a little bit. Like how long ago that was. Like it's actually crazy. I guess I could segue this into like talking about Aror as well, because I was also gonna say like Aror and I have spent like season 3, he was on Eager, which was the top team, and then season 4 I was on eUnited, which was the top team, and then we stayed at the top for a while in season 5, and then he overtook that in NA at the end with Splice, obviously, when they won. I just think like the two of us have constantly gone back and forth between like being a big part or like leading teams that, you know, at the time were the best in NA or potentially the world as well. So Aror would be a player that I would say was actually a big part of that like evolution for me. I'd say at the start I looked up to people like, you know, Jeff and Shadowq, who played the standard like Geb and Athena and Kepri and stuff like that, and they would play that, you know, kind of like pocket your ADC and your mage type of play style. And I think that play style is good, but I think Aror was probably the main one who kind of like opened my like mind up to like other potential play styles. Like he was really infamous for like Ares and like Fenrir. Before Fenrir was OP in season 5, he would play Fenrir in like, you know, season 2 games every now and then, and it wouldn't be something that he did every game, but you would think about like, you know, what in his brain made him lead to like, this is a good Fenrir game, like I can do a lot here. I think just like taking pieces from players over time has helped a lot. Season 4, I would say I kind of like combined those, and I think that's when I really came into my own, where I think I would play gods like Fafnir and Terra, who like, I mean, who didn't? They were just busted back then. But I would play characters like that where they kind of did a little bit of both. Like I could be really aggressive and I could like solo people if they messed up. Like if a carry messed up or didn't have actives, I would just solo them and go for it. Or I could also play for peel, and I would do a lot of stuff that was just like aggressive things on gods you wouldn't think are aggressive. Like I would go horrific, and basically what I'm saying is I kind of had all those things handed back to me in season 5 a little bit. Like I'd say in season 4, if you go watch those VODs, like I was going horrific frenzy like almost every single game, and not a lot of people were doing it. And I think that was a huge part of like when Splice took off. If you go watch Aurora and Cyclone Lane, they were getting all these kills. They were playing super high pressure, like Izanami and RDO and stuff like that. And like Aurora would always have horrific, and they would just really like pressure that lane. And I'd say for a while that year, myself and Panda were kind of like running duo lane, and then towards the end we were like, holy crap, like these guys are kind of giving it to us a little bit. And I feel like Aurora and I have just gone back and forth of like, we think differently and we play differently and we lead our teams differently, but we've taken small stuff from each other over the years. And I think, I mean, I can't speak for him, but I know it's definitely made me better over time, and it's someone that I really respect because of just, you know, the way he thinks. And obviously I think the most important thing about us is that like we both want to win every single game that we play. Like we're just super competitive people. Like we hate losing. Like we want to be a part of like a winning culture, and like we want to dedicate everything we can to winning. So I think like having someone like that I've competed against for, you know, whatever it is now, like 5-6 years, has definitely been a big driving force for me.
I think it's fair, man. I think that you two definitely have some of the most similar play styles across any role, I would say. We'll get to what Aror's thoughts on that are in a moment, because Genetics, I got to ask you what you see from Aror. Is it a lot of the same things that Mike was just talking about and what you said about Mike?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, kind of. I mean, I remember I went to the Netherlands with some of my friends to watch Splice win Worlds, which I didn't think they were going to win, but I just saw Fenrir just engage every fight, and I mean, I think he didn't get a lot of credit that he deserved for that tournament, and I think Aurora's just a really good mechanical player. And I think a lot of North American sports are selfless, but like on Umoja, I know he's extremely good at hitting his ones, and his threes are really well placed as well. I just think mechanically he's just really solid, and everything that's good, he's always ready to play. You know, I think every meta he's always been ready to play whatever's best.
Yeah, definitely a pretty wide god pool over your career for sure, Aurora. I think that's a good point there by Sam. Aurora, you and I talked, I think we were at a Steak and Shake in season 5, I want to say. And I was asking you about, you know, your support mentality, and because you've always had such a unique play style. And you told me then that you just want, when every time you load into a game, you want to be the most annoying player to play against in that lobby. That was your goal every time, was just to annoy the enemy team as much as possible. And I always think about that when I watch you play, and I'm always like, man, is he probably being really annoying to the enemy team right now. Do you still feel that same way, that that's your goal when you load in a lot of the time?
No, yeah, for sure. Because if you're annoying, that means you're doing something right. Like if people are like, "This guy's so stupid. What is he doing? That was so bad." Like if people are saying that and they're losing, then you're doing your job well.
What about what Mike was saying? Do you think that you two being at the top of NA, kind of trading off that spot over the last few years, have you two kind of developed a similar play style because you've just been trying to one up each other at the top of the standings?
Yeah, I don't know how similar our playstyles are. I think we've taken a lot of things from each other, but I wouldn't really call it like too similar. I think like some of the gods now, like Mike's playing more Herc, I guess. So like you can kind of make that like draw comparisons to maybe our god pools a little bit. But I think the way Mike likes to run the map is a little bit different than like how I want to do it. And I think both ways are like super successful. But going back to your point of like trading off, yeah, I feel like having someone like Mike to play against after all these years has just been a lot of fun, and it's definitely cool because it's definitely made me a lot better in terms of how I play the game and how I look at it as well. And just having someone like that keeps he's it's like you overtake him for a little bit and then he overtakes you, and then every single time that happens, each player gets better and it just keeps going and going. So it's been enjoyable to be part of that.
It's been fun to watch for sure. All right, guys, we're gonna end the show with a section that I think might be a little bit of fun with the guests we have on. What are some picks that maybe you wouldn't scrim with them, but some support picks that you're convinced could be good, but your team might not believe you? Genetics, you were instantly nodding your head. You once played Nuwa support in an actual SML game, and I had to analyze it, I think. And that was hard for me. So you kind of owe me for that one. What are some other weird picks that you've got baking in the oven?
I got so many. All right, on the support. On the support is just a budget. It's just a different Hercules, right? Is Honor's broken.
Okay.
Isis broken. Poseidon. I mean, I don't deserve it because I've got Scream on my team. But if you max your 2 and you run around the map, you actually outfarm everyone. It's incredible.
Okay, but where's the support? The on her I get, you know, impale, you know, displacement, prot tread, all that kind of stuff. Isis, sure, CC. What benefit do you get from Poseidon support?
The ult, the stun knock up on the ult, the knockback on the 1, the whirlpool, pull and slow.
The quibble, right? That's good.
His 3 and his 1 are low cooldowns when you get full CDR, so you can spam that.
Okay, I was watching you play a little bit in ranked, so I think Nico was streaming and you were doing it, and it had some success.
I think we might have lost every game, but
yeah, you
usually. That's Team Biff though. That's not me.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
nothing-
actually just unlucky is what it comes down to.
Right,
Thank
matchmaking.
you, David. Exactly.
Nothing you could have done there. Mike, what about you? What you got in the tank for unique support picks?
Okay, I'll use stuff that I've actually like scrimmed with in season 4. I really wanted to play rat support. Like going into Worlds, we scrimmed with rat support. And I've talked about this before. I would literally camp Bera. We would have Scream on Fenrir, and I would be on Rat, and Ven would be on Morgan, and we would literally triple gank his lane, like off cooldown. Like we would take turns ganking his lane. Panda would not do anything. He would sit the wave at his tower line, and anytime Bera or Jeff walked up, they were dead. That was one of my favorite ones for sure. Last year against the old PK, I played a mean game of Chiron support. Okay, this was before Blackthorn got hurt, and I went attack speed boots into Thebes, straight into Blackthorn Iqbal in Kins, and I got a frenzy and a sunder, and I was popping people. It was OP. Like you're basically Geb mixed with like a dive support as well. Like you just drop your cleanse, you're ulting and doing everybody. It's pretty OP. You can get blink and Sobek pluck people as well with this 3.
Right. Yeah, the world's smallest Sobek pluck, sure.
Okay, it's pretty quick. You can't beads it either because it's like one frame that you can beads it if you just blink 3 on. And then another one that I personally love is Arachne, just for the cheese starts. You can like triple web your back harpies and then do your purple buff, and you pick up the purple as well. And you hit level 2, and then you walk in the lane, and you just ignore the wave. Like Aurora was saying earlier, like you want to hit the wave, like not as Arachne support. You ignore the wave, get your ADC, and you just solo them. That's the best thing ever.
Well, there you go. That's a whole lot of strats right there for you. Aurora, how about for you? You got anything in particular that you like to play? I think Aurora is frozen. He is definitely frozen. Okay, we'll get that fixed. All right, so Aurora, you're up now. What are some of your favorite weird supports to play?
Oh man. I'm trying to think. There's a couple gods right now.
The Awilix support back in the day was a thing, right?
Oh yeah, that was season 2. I don't think there's not a lot of players that remember that. So whenever somebody brings up the Awilix, it always makes me laugh. Like Meerkat will be one who's like, "Oh my god, I hate your Awilix so much." But like nowadays, like any players in rank don't really remember that. I feel like there's so many different players now than there were back then.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But man, I'm trying to think of something recent that I can bring up. I mean, there's a couple gods right now that I feel like that are one change away from being really good in support, but I guess they wouldn't be weird.
That's fine if that's what you want to, if that's what you're thinking about playing, you know, that's fine.
Something weird.
And Hercules, I mean, you just can't. I know you're just spamming the Herc every chance you get, so that doesn't count anymore.
I'm lucky. Yeah, I don't really have anything right now. I'm sorry, I have to think about it more.
No, that's fine.
The thing with Aurora is he actually just like plays them in the SPO. Like if he's playing like weird stuff, he actually just makes it work. And then like everyone thought Herc was troll for so long. Like that can't be like that good, right? And then like Erlang, he was the first one to play in like season 3. Like I feel like you kind of just can tell what he thinks is weird on his god pool a little bit, and then it ends up being OP, and people are like, we gotta play this like right now.
Dude, that old Erlang root cripple on the 2. Oh god, that was so gross.
I remember when that god came out and everybody was like, man, this god sucks. I'm like, yeah, he's really bad. He sucks. That's what I kept saying. Like, everybody's like, what do you think of Erlang? I remember I was streaming and I was playing Clash. I was playing him every single game in Clash. I'm like, yeah, Erlang is garbage, dude.
Yeah, 3 different forms of CC, none of which DR each other really. Like that's fine. Like he'll be bad, no doubt. Well, guys, thanks very much for joining us here for Roll Q and for dealing with all the different tech things that we've got going on here with the whole quarantine situation. But we should be getting this series started up and rolling again. So make sure to send everybody a tweet. Well, don't tweet these guys. Tweet me about which role you guys want to see next. Okay, tweet Mike too. All right, and Aurora, and Sam, I don't want to leave you out. So tweet all 4 of us which roles you want to see, and maybe give Aurora some suggestions on weird gods that he can try out, since he had a little bit of trouble with that one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time here on Roll Q.